Hey guys, welcome to Tech Talk. It is your girl, the Lab Girl, and we're super excited about today. I just want to tell everyone thank you so much for joining Tech Talk. Before we get started, and as everyone is making their way into the chat, could you please let me know if you can hear me okay before we start the stream? You can use your comment box and let me know if you guys can hear me before I bring on our special guest today. And I want to tell everyone thank you so much for joining the show today. I know it's been a long time, and I'm super excited to be back and bring you guys a brand new episode of Tech Talk. Okay, great. Thank you, JT. Hi to everyone who is joining the stream. I'm super excited about today because we have a histology recruiter today. So we're going to get into the program really soon. But before we get into the program, I just want to thank everyone for supporting me and supporting the channel, the Lab Girl Circle. And you guys know that. Um, that I created this for histotechs and lab professionals like myself. So I'm really thankful to have you guys support the channel and to be here today. So let me go ahead and get everything set up and we will bring Pam in on the live.
Hi, everybody.
Head to the stream. Hey, how are you?
Hey, Shan.
Hey, I'm so happy you're here. Thank you so much for joining Tech Talk. Super excited about today. I don't want to waste any time because we definitely have a lot to talk about. And I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of episode 3 of Tech Talk. And I'm so excited about today. And I just want to get to know you and we want to get to know our guest today. So if you could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what exactly you do?
Sure, absolutely. First of all, I just want to say thank you for inviting me to be on. I'm really excited about this too. Um, I've been a recruiter probably my entire professional career, and I've been recruiting exclusively in histology since 2002 and owning my own company called Relia Solutions since 2005. All I do is work permanent placement nationwide. All I work with is histotechs. I'm based in Florida, but again, like I said, I do work nationwide. Um, Part of what gives me the greatest satisfaction supporting the growth of the field and the growth and development of histotechs. So in my spare time, what I also do is I am on the advisory boards for both Kaiser University and IUPUI. I'm on the board of directors for the Florida Society of Histotechnology. I write blogs for several of the state newsletters, and I'm
That's
always
cool.
available for anybody who needs any career advice, resume tune-ups, whatever.
Oh, that's awesome, Pam. I was like I told you before we actually started the stream. I am super excited to have you. I know I talk about a lot about travel histology, but it was really interesting whenever I went to your DMs and I asked you to be on the show. You did let me know that you worked with permanent placement. So a lot of my audience, they probably hear me talk about travel histology and the benefits of travel histology. So today, I think this will be a great way to see about speaking about travel versus permanent, and where are the benefits of maybe having that extra help or having that recruiter, because a lot of people are looking for jobs on their own. So you're a
Mhm.
great asset to help us actually get a job, because it may be something that we're missing whenever we're looking for a job. So I'm actually excited for today because I have some questions for you that I know I would like to have, that I'm curious about, and I know my audience is curious about as well. So let's go ahead and get into that.
Okay, great.
Okay, the first question I wanted to ask you is, were you ever a histotech?
No, I was never a histotech. But here's what happened. I was recruiting as an information technology recruiter.
Okay.
2K 2000, when they thought all the computers and all the power was going to go and all that. And so I was working for an IT firm, and they got a contract from one of the large pharmaceutical companies for IT people. After we
Okay.
finished that project, they said, "Hey, can you guys do healthcare?" And some of the other recruiters got med techs, and I started talking to histotechs. And I was
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, if I had known about this before I started my career, I would be a
Hmm.
histotech. And I just thought I was
Really?
just so fascinated by what you guys do. And then everybody was just such a pleasure to talk to, and always has been and still is.
Oh, that's great. I know you told me earlier that you serve on the board at Kaiser University, which
Mhm.
that is the school that I actually got my histology degree from. And what a small world, because years
Right?
later I'm actually speaking with you. And I wanted to ask you, as far as Kaiser, you did tell me that Kaiser has a 100% placement rate, which is amazing.
It is.
Um,
It's fantastic.
it's fantastic. And I know when I was going to school in Kaiser, we was really the only school that offered histology. This was, I think maybe there were maybe an online school for histology, but
Mm.
do you guys have more competition with other schools offering histology now, or is it still Kaiser like the main school?
I think there's other schools now, but I think Kaiser really stands out
Mm-hmm.
from some of the other schools, in my personal opinion. And that's mostly because I've had so much opportunity to work with their graduates. Okay.
Okay.
Um, the thing that really stands out to me about Kaiser is that, in addition to the students going out on an externship to learn how to work in a lab, they actually have an actual physical lab right
Yes.
there at school. So, some of the online programs and some of the classroom programs, you might not ever even get to touch a microtome
I
till you
know.
get to the externship
We may be having some
site.
internet.
Meanwhile, right? Meanwhile, these are. Did
Can you hear me okay, Pam? I think our
you
internet
lose
is,
me?
yeah, we're losing you here and there.
Oh no.
It's just your, I think it's maybe the
What can I
internet.
do?
Nothing. It's fine. It goes in and out. You're good.
Okay. Okay. So what I was saying was that they actually have a full service lab right there on site
Hmm.
on campus. And so those students are actually physically learning the skills they need. As soon as they hit the externship site, they can hit the ground running. And I spend some time with each of them before they, with the students before they go to the externship sites, because I want them to understand that in reality, the externship site is their first job.
I know.
You know,
I
where,
hitting
where are
on
they
that.
going to get their reference from?
Yes. I
You know?
actually, say that in my videos whenever, and we can talk about resumes as well, because um whenever I had to write a histology resume, my resume was only based like customer service. So I used to freak out and think like, oh my God, like who's going to hire me if I don't have experience? So what I learned is I started putting my histology, my clinical experience, literally as my job, because you're there for like, I know it was 2 months for me. So you're there for quite some time. So you can actually use that. That's what I normally tell people who watch me, because
Mhm.
you can get defeated thinking no one's going to pick your resume, or no one's going to pick you for an interview, or how can I get a job without having experience? But you do have that clinical experience, and you can put that because you're doing embedding, you're doing cutting, you're doing specimen processing, even sometimes. You're doing all these things that you would do in the real world at your clinical site. So, do you think that that's a good idea that I have them to put that as maybe as some work experience?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, when I talk to the students, I tell them how to do the resumes. And what I recommend is that you actually start with a summary of qualifications.
Yeah,
And what that's going to list is all your histology skills, microtomy,
exactly.
embedding, special stains, H&E,
Mm-hmm.
because if particularly, well, for two reasons. First of all, if you're doing an automated job application process, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times the companies are using they're using AI, um,
Oh,
but it's not like chat gpt, all that. No,
right.
they're using it for keyword matching. So just
Okay.
like when you do a Google search, so when all the resumes come to them that are in that have applied for these positions, the software will rank them on the number of times they see keywords. So that's
Oh,
why you want them up there too. The
sort of
second
like an
reason.
algorithm, like an algorithm.
Right, right. You're kind
Mm-hmm.
of playing their algorithms, but
Mm-hmm.
also bear in mind that you might be working with a smaller lab who just has an administrator or office admin or HR person, and they're going through the resumes. Say they don't know anything about histology. So the
Right.
only thing that they're doing is trying to look at the job requirement that their manager gave them, and then looking at the
Mm-hmm.
resume trying to match. So again, same thing. You want
Oh,
to see it there as much as possible so they
those
see it.
keywords.
And then what I do from there, as far as the work experience, is I divide it: histology related experience
Mm-hmm.
and regular other work experience. So
Right.
histology related experience, other work experience.
Right.
Because then you put under the histology related experience, you put your externship, and
Mm-hmm.
you put everything in there in high detail of what you do on a daily basis so that you can so that it looks like a histology job,
Right.
because like Shan said, in essence, that's what it is, you know.
That's what it is.
And
I
then you
know.
do want to include the other work experience for sure, because
Mm-hmm.
you want people to see things like how responsible you are, how you can
Mm-hmm.
hold down a job, how many different other skills and talents you might have from previous positions that might help you in this position.
Right.
And
I
then from
definitely
there,
agree
I'll
with
put
that.
the education. Was
Now,
that?
as far as when you get a candidate that submits their resume to you
Mhm.
for a job, do you skim over it and then give them some type of feedback on what they can do to be more appealing to the the employer?
Usually, what I'll do with the candidates, I do two things. I'll do resume tune ups for people who are
Hmm.
either looking on their own, or, let me just stop and say this for a second. Resumes are not only for job hunting,
Oh,
resumes are great for if you're getting ready to, write a research project, um,
oh,
going for a promotion, have it by your side when you're looking for a raise, so you have all your accomplishments.
that's a good idea.
Um, yeah, there's so many things that it can be used for, and you know what? It's even just a good idea just to do it, so you can go, "Wow, this is where
Wow,
I've been. Look what I've
I
done."
know. Look
You know?
how much like I've grown.
Right.
Because
Or
sometimes you get so in you become like you work and you work and work and you really don't see it on paper because
right.
you already have a job, so you don't take the time to update your resume just so you can put it on paper instead of just writing it when it's time to look for a job. So I think that's a great idea, just to keep it to always refresh it,
Yeah.
because that way you can see exactly, okay, like I've added more skills based upon the last time I actually like began this job.
Exactly, exactly. And if you just put, if you just sent your other resume that you used for this job, they're never going to know all the other
I
stuff that you've
know.
done. Exactly, exactly. And then the other thing too is, to the same reason, a lot of people have me help them with their resumes because they're getting ready for a promotion.
That's a good
You know,
idea.
yeah. And so normally what I'll do is, if somebody asks me for a resume tune-up, I'll take a look at their resume. If I think it looks great, I don't change it.
Right.
I don't, some people really know what they're doing, or some people just they've done a very good job of representing themselves, and I respect that.
Right.
And anybody else, what I do is I take their original resume and the changes that I recommend, I put them in red. So then it's
Oh,
optional, so they can see what I would do versus what they're doing, and then we just go from there.
okay.
My candidates, I go over their resumes with them, and I make sure that the resume is accurate, the it's edited properly, and it has all the information that the client's going to want to see.
Okay. And speaking of clients, I wanted to ask you. Well, I have this theory. I'm gonna say it's a theory because a lot of people can be book smart but not have personality.
Hmm.
Whenever it comes time to, you look really great on paper, but when it's time for the interview process, you probably won't get the job if you don't have. Sometimes you just being your personality sometimes can get you in the door, with also with your resume, of course, and your work and your skills. But I wanted to ask you, what do most of your employers look for when it comes to a great candidate? Like, what do they tell you that they're looking for? Because someone can be great on paper, like I said before, but then someone can not have as much education, but is know how to multitask, know how to think on their feet. They know how to troubleshoot. They know how to, hold a lab down and work great in groups, work by themselves. Those are things that they can market themselves. So how, in your experience, do you see the employer picking more of the person who's great on paper, or who has a mixture of both, or who's just great with, following directions and knowing what to do?
Right now,
Hmm.
right now, I would say, if you're certified, that's all they want. That's
That's
all
all
they
they want.
need. It's
Yeah.
just such a great shortage of histotechs.
Yeah.
But in the big scheme of things,
Hmm.
think of it from the manager's perspective.
Hmm.
The manager has a full lab to run,
Yep.
multiple techs to manage, a full um, gamut of slides to process, a pathologist breathing down their neck to get the slides in time. So when they're looking at a candidate, what is you think that's the thing that they want most out of that person?
They want
Reliability.
reliability,
Hmm.
efficiency,
Hmm.
quality,
Hmm.
time management.
The
Um,
number one thing that a manager is looking for, it encompasses everything that you just said, Shan.
Someone who's going to come
That's
to work.
dependability. That
Dependability.
because what you have to realize too is when a manager hires somebody,
Hmm.
that's an executive decision that they've made, and it reflects on them. It
It
reflects
does.
on them to the rest of the company, and it reflects on them to their bosses. So when they're talking to you, you know, that's fantastic that you have your skills. It's
Hmm.
fantastic that you're certified. It's
Hmm.
fantastic you have your experience. But what you want to convey to them in the interview is that if they hire you, that you're going to do what you said you could do, and you're going to do it well.
I love that. I love that because you're
That's the
right.
thing
Because
I always tell people, no smoke and mirrors. It's
that,
just be straight and be authentic.
straightforward.
And then the
Hmm.
other thing too, like you're mentioning about how some people are really shy or quiet or stuff like
Hmm.
that. Um, I wouldn't try too much to change my personality in an
Right.
interview because I kind of feel like when you're working for somebody, a good analogy is dating. So
Hmm.
when you're dating, the most successful relationships are going to be the ones that you're most authentic in.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because if you act like you're somebody else, it's probably not going to work out.
It's
Same
not.
thing with the interview. You
Yeah.
spend as much time at work or more than you do in your
At
private life,
home.
right?
That's true. Yeah. That's true.
So when you interview, if you don't have the chance to meet the other people, the best you can do to get a good feel for whether you're going to be a good fit or not is to be your authentic self with the manager
Mhm.
because the manager will know.
You know what? That's a great point. It was more not to change yourself, but to just be yourself, because a lot of people, they get sometimes like, whether you're shy or not, a lot of people get intimidated whenever they go on interviews, because interview scares a lot of people. So
Sure.
sometimes people, they don't be themselves, and they only maybe say what the manager wants to hear or what sounds great, which is, you want to get the job. But at the end of the day, I've seen a lot of people, like you said, they'll promise a lot of things, and then when they get in, they're not dependable, they're not reliable, they're not everything that they said, because those are like the main words to say in the interview. Why should we hire you, which is like the main the main question. Is like, because I'm dependable, and then they're not. So I just feel like sometimes you want to show, like, you do want to be yourself, but you don't want to get intimidated. And that was my thing about working in a lab, and the reason why I created the Lab Girl Circle, because a lot of students, and people who are studying for the ASCP, I wanted to show them what the real world was like, and how you can be yourself, and you don't have to compare yourself, or with other histotechs, and how you just want to be the best histotech that you can possibly be. So that's like my main goal for my channel.
Sure,
um
sure. Do you want some interview tips?
I do.
Okay. Got a couple quick things to make it, I think, make a world of difference. Okay.
Hmm.
First of all, you want to make sure that you smile the
Yes.
entire time. Okay.
Yes.
Even if you're on the phone, because they can hear that and that
Hmm.
sounds confident. Okay.
That's a great tip.
When you start the interview, the first thing you want to do, whether it's in person or on the phone, is you say, "Hi, I'm so and so, and I've been really looking forward to speaking to you."
Yep.
You're
Great.
setting the tone. And here's the thing, even if you're somebody who is shy or uncomfortable
Hmm.
in interviews,
Hmm.
if you know you're going to say this, it
Hmm.
makes it a lot easier because you know you're going to get it started, right? Right,
Right.
right. Okay. And again, here's the other thing too. It's not a test.
Nope.
It's, if you don't get this one, you chalk it up to experience and you go to
Hmm.
the next one. If you don't get this one, it's not always about you.
Right.
Maybe there was somebody who had more experience than you, maybe somebody who lived closer than you. Maybe the pathologist's granddaughter wants to do it. I don't know. But don't take it personally.
Right.
Don't ever take it personally. You'd be surprised at how many people I've had interview someplace and it just wasn't the right timing.
Right.
And then 2 years later, that was the right place, the right person, and the right company. So,
Yeah.
it's like I said, it's always, I think it's timing more than anything. And
That's
so
that's
I would
great
look at
advice.
every interview as an opportunity to network because you're meeting
Hmm.
somebody, and an opportunity to practice.
I think that's awesome. And I think, with this live, a lot of, especially new histotechs, they'll understand that it's just like, honestly, any job that you go for, whether you're
Right.
being a histotech, or if you're working at Target or Walmart, you want to have those type, like you said, those type of interview skills. Smile through the phone, all those great things. It works with every job. And if it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. And it, like you say, everything's about timing. So
Right.
I like that advice, because we need that confidence, and we need to hear that when you working with your peers, and just say someone gets a job at their externship, and maybe you went up for it too and you didn't get it, but it's always too what that employer is looking for. And it may not be the right, because I know how a lot of students feel sometimes defeated if they hear another classmate, and this is just my experience. They
Mhm.
may get the job, or they may pass the test, and maybe they didn't pass the test on the first time. So it's always about that comparison. So, just like you said before, it's all about timing, and it's an experience, and it's something that you can learn from, and you take what you learn from, and you apply it to your next experience, to your next interview, to your next job.
Right.
So
Right. And you know what? You're only really, and I'm saying this is because I've been around for a while. um, Truthfully, your only competition is you.
period.
You're a unique person, and
Hmm.
either if this isn't the right one, there's another one that is the right one. That's all
Yep.
there is to it. If you didn't pass the test this time, that just means study harder and pass it next
Study
time.
harder. Yeah, you're right. Your
It's
only
that simple.
competition is you. Great
Yeah, and
advice.
then there was one more tip that
Oh, go
this
ahead.
is a job hunting tip that I would give to any and everybody in any job, in at any level, and at
Hmm.
any for any type of experience. And I don't speak definitively on many things, but I
Hmm.
will on this.
Okay.
Reference checking. Not everybody checks references, but a lot of people do.
Right.
And what you want to do is when you start your job search, you want to contact all your references and tell them, hey, listen, I'm starting a new job search. And is it still okay that I use you as a reference?
Right.
And if they say yes, great. I'll be back in touch, because when I get an interview and they tell me they want references, I'm going to call you back and I'm going to tell you who it is, what the job is, because that way you'll be more comfortable speaking about me.
Right.
So you see, by taking that simple step of, first of all, the initial respect to your references that they're going to take, they don't have to,
They
they're
don't
not
have to.
obligated.
Right.
So that they're going to take the time out of their day to talk about you, that's the first
Mm-hmm.
call that you're giving them that respect. The second
Mm-hmm.
call, you are enabling them to market you
Right.
to the job,
Yeah.
because they know what you're like in your lab,
Mm-hmm.
and they're the ones that are going to be able to even further the feeling of, this is a good person and they're going to be dependable.
That's a great thing. I know, and you can let me know if as far as references, are you the one who checked the references whenever you have an application for a permanent? Do you check the references? You call the references, or you have someone
I
who calls
do.
them?
I
Okay.
do. And a lot of times, so it really kind of sort of depends on the candidate, because sometimes my clients prefer to do their own reference checking.
Okay.
And I hate to wear out the reference before the client,
Yeah.
talks to them. I want it to be fresh for them.
Right.
But most of my clients do expect that I'll help them out with that. And
Um.
truthfully, as far as when I first started out, I used to do a lot of preliminary reference checking when I would talk to people. But truthfully, now that I know so many people in the field,
Mhm.
so many of the people that I work with are referred to me by people that I respect, that
So
I
you
don't
trust their
really
judgment.
even, yeah, I trust their
Yeah.
judgment until
Speaking of,
the end of the interview process, when the client wants the professional references, and then I'll go ahead and do it.
now, speaking of references, I know when I was traveling, my travel company, my references could only be histotext, or only be not histotext. They can only be supervisors.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if that's how all travel companies are, but it wasn't like when I wasn't working in histology. You could put just someone you knew as a reference, and but normally that's why I try to practice teaching my audience that you don't necessarily have to, not say, I don't want to say like you have to have the best relationship with everyone in the lab, but I do notice that me traveling and applying for jobs, they want histology supervisors, they want a lead, or they're not asking for just someone that's outside of a lab. Are you asking for just lab professionals as references, or it can just be a reference? Because think times has changed. So
Right, right. Well, people starting out, if you have never had a histology job, we have to go to the other references. And a lot of times your program director
okay.
will also, provide a reference, or your externship site. Like I said, your externship site is your first job and your first reference. But generally speaking, anybody who's coming to me looking for a perm position, my clients are usually say they need 3 references, at least one of them being a supervisor and the other 2 at least being techs.
Okay. And let me see here. Now, I know that you are a permanent, you do permanent placing. Is that just Florida only, or is that nationwide?
No, I
That
work
I can,
nationwide. As a
okay.
matter of fact, I would have to say that most of my jobs are outside of Florida,
Okay.
because Florida has 3 histology schools.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So who are the other two?
Well, like we said, we have Kaiser. Kaiser has 2 campuses.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we have University of North Florida up in Jacksonville.
Okay.
And then I
So
believe there's a university in Miami that has one too.
I think I remember the Miami one too.
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as, and you guys, um I have
I'm
Pam's
sorry, that was
information.
Jacksonville State College, not University of North Florida. My
Oh,
mistake.
Jacksonville State.
Mhm.
Okay. if you guys want to contact Pam, here's the info at the bottom of the screen. That will be streaming throughout the live. And thank you guys so much for joining the live. And make sure that you guys do a big thumbs up so we can let YouTube know that you guys are enjoying the stream. I just have to do that disclaimer. Sorry, Pam.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. Now, okay. So if someone wanted to use your company as a job placement, just say I want to move from California to Florida. Um, how one I have a Florida license. I know you have to have a Florida state license, but what are some requirements that you think that one should know as far as like looking for a permanent job? Because everyone wants to live in Florida, especially for the great weather. There's so many different reasons why we would love to live in Florida. So what is your requirement as far as like, okay, like this is going to be a something that can go a little bit smoother. So they would actually have to get a Florida license. I know now as far as like location and pay, how do you have that type of information that you can provide to them, or that's something that the employer provides as far as like the pay or other
Well,
requirements?
the first thing we'll start with is the Florida licensure. Um, it's much easier to get now than it was years ago. Years ago there was a physical exam, and now there's no exam. And the processing time has been so much more automated that the last time I checked about a week ago was like under a week to get your license processed. So
Yeah.
it's very streamlined. There's a link that you go to. It's Florida's clinicallabs.gov.
Okay.
And if you didn't catch that, just Google Florida lab license and you'll get the site right there.
Okay.
I can't remember right offhand how much it costs, but it's pretty inexpensive to get it. And the requirements are that you're already ASCP certified, which is what they did when they got rid of the exam, right? So
Right.
you need to be ASCP certified, and then you have to take some courses online. And then the courses, actually, interestingly enough, you can get the courses from the NSH. They sell them as a bundle. And why that's cool is because it's important that the school send your transcripts directly to Florida so that they can process,
Yeah.
and once that's done, you're in.
Okay.
And
And
then
also,
there's a
and also,
technician, a
okay.
technologist, and a supervisor license. And if you go to the website, it'll show you the different
Like
routes
requirements.
depending on where you are. I get as much information as I can from my clients because I don't want anybody going into an interview not knowing as much as they possibly can. So I gather as much intelligence as I can in my initial calls with the client.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I talk to my candidates, I encourage them to tell me what else they want to know. And then I'll tell them, is that something that you might want to ask in the interview? Because how many times do you get in an interview and they go, do you have any questions? And you don't have
And
any,
no, and no,
So,
no
so
one
we
says
go into
anything,
that.
right?
And that's more like technical stuff, like how many antibodies they have, what they're, whether it's what type of vendor machines they have, that kind of stuff. I'm like, yes, you should ask that because that's conversational. But what I will get you before is I will get you the pay range for the position,
Mm-hmm.
the schedule, an idea of the atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
what you're going to be doing daily, and your benefits. And then
Mm-hmm.
I also will help you to negotiate the salary or pay
Oh,
range
great.
and the relocation and or sign-on bonuses.
Oh,
And
that's amazing.
the thing is with Florida right now, I mean, with pretty much every place right now, I would say what I'm seeing is that it just goes without saying that they're willing, if you're coming from someplace else, they're willing to do a relocation.
Yeah, I know.
And
They're like
then,
I've been seeing like 10,000, or I've been seeing some relocation. Probably not as much as 10,000, but I've been
depends on
seeing.
the size of the company and their
Yeah,
financial ability, basically,
yeah, yeah.
And then the other thing I was going to say was about pay ranges, and I always
Mm-hmm.
say this because it makes me smile. So the client says to me, I say, so what do you think the pay range is going to be for this job? And the client says 35 to 45 an hour. And I'm like, all right, great, thanks. So now I know
That's actually great.
the range is 35 to 45. But here's the deal. The client's thinking 35.
Mm-hmm.
and the candidate's thinking 45, right?
45.
Mhm. And I know it's gonna hit in the middle, so I prepare them both
Okay.
because everybody,
And you can
because
and
that's
you can
reality.
negotiate. And you can okay, well first I want to say cuz I am from Florida, and the fact that they're starting, cuz I looked the salary up, and I mean, just a few years ago, I don't. They were. I mean, in my, I guess maybe because I was doing Durham, or maybe because I worked in a smaller city, but they were the $30, or the 30 between 40. I mean, that's come a long way, and from what I've seen whenever I was applying for jobs,
Mhm.
I can honestly say that the cost of living has gone up everywhere. So the fact that they are now raising their wages is a really good thing, because you can pretty much you can live good off of $35 to $40 an hour in Florida. And that's what I always say, because
Mhm.
it's not really expensive. It's expensive to live there, but that's actually a good wage to make in Florida. Um,
Yeah.
and now I know you said that you can negotiate pay.
Mhm.
So that's a great thing. And as far as um, fees, is there a fee to have you to help a candidate search for a job, or is that do we have to pay you? Because I know in a regular staffing company where there's traveling, I know they get some type of, like, of course, like bonus or something, probably from from the employer. But
Mhm.
is this a free service, or do we have to pay to access
No, no,
candidates?
no. This is free to candidates. The employers pay my fees, and I'm
Okay,
going to tell you this. Even though the employers pay my fees, I am an advocate for you.
great,
It's your life and your career.
right,
For them, it's a person on their team, which is important too.
right,
But the whole scene has so many greater ramifications for you in the
hmm,
decisions that you make than it really does for them.
great,
So that's why I run my own company, because that way I don't have anybody breathing down my neck going, but the hand that feeds you is the client. And I'm like, I
right.
know that. But for the client to be successful and the candidate to be successful, they have to be happy together, and somebody has to advocate for the candidate.
Yeah, that's actually a great thing that you said, because before, when I was making my travel histology jobs, and why traveling is a great opportunity. I know it may not work out in a lot of for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, but I in my videos I say, your recruiter works for you. That's how I look at it, because a lot of people, as far as travelers, and even myself, I'm going to be transparent. You get bombarded with so many jobs, and you get text messages, you should go here, or you need to act fast. Because I know when looking for a job, and you have and just say you take an assignment, it goes so fast. It starts to like snowball. Like, 1 minute you're on the phone, you got your interview, and then the next minute the recruiter is telling you to do this. It's like, okay, like I can't even breathe. Like I can't, like,
Right.
slow down. It happens so fast. You need your
Mhm.
credentials. Do you have this? We need to send this, and we need to send you for shots. We need to send you. Then you're moving like in one day. It's just sort of like
Yeah.
it happens so fast. So, and sometimes, if you want to say no to an assignment, or if you want to say, what, that I don't think that works, great for me. I always say, don't get stressed out, or, your recruiter is there to help you. They're not, your enemy. They're there. If you want to even change recruiters, just say that recruiter may not be the best fit for you. It's okay. It's nothing personal. And when you say, you want to make sure that, one, the employer is happy, and then the candidate is also happy. So I think that's a great way to actually like look at it, because at the end of the day, you may be missing something, as to the reason why you probably not getting a job. So you guys actually can help us see exactly, okay, like that middleman or woman who can help us to actually connect to an employer and get our foot in the door. So,
Yeah, kind of like a agent for an actor.
exactly, that's true. That's a girl. I like that. Now, Pam, what do you enjoy most about being the owner of Relia, And also, what you do every day. Like, what do you enjoy most about being a histology recruiter?
Talking to histotex.
We're that enjoyable.
Yeah, I love it. Love you guys. I'll tell you a funny story. Before I opened my own company, I worked for somebody else as their histotech recruiter.
Okay.
And we worked in a situation where we were in cubicles. So everybody was on the phone and all that, right? They used to keep a tape, what do you call it? Like some sort of device that they had where they were actually counting our calls to make sure we
Oh,
were always on the phone. Okay.
okay.
So obviously, I like being able to have the freedom to do this, do social media, do
Hmm.
things like the Kaiser thing, talk to people, help people. If I was working for a recruiting firm, all I would be doing is getting jobs and finding people and putting them together. And
Right.
that's just not me. That's just too generic, you know.
Right.
So that's what I enjoy the most, just interfacing with everybody and being able to do it more creatively than what most recruiters get to do.
Just like on the phone and just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
So
Because,
back to my story. So I got to be the histotech recruiter, right? So the manager would come every once in a while, to make sure everybody was doing their job. He would get so mad at me because he thought I was talking to my friends and I was talking to histotex. He's like,
that
"Is
sounds
that
like
a
my life.
personal call?" He's like, "Is that a personal call?" And I'm like, no, it's the histology supervisor at Ameripath. What do you need?"
Like we have numbers that we need, quota we need to meet. Hang up the phone. But
Yeah, and I'm like,
you were making connections.
right,
You were networking.
right, right,
And that's
right.
a great thing.
Right. And so he didn't know that because I was so comfortable because you guys are such awesome people.
Oh,
So
thank you
he
so
thought I
much.
was on a personal call.
Okay, so Pam, what would you tell travelers? Well, okay, well, let me rewind that. Um, do you have any? Have you worked with any recruiters who did traveling, like who were traveler recruiters? Do you know any? Have they tried to persuade you to do traveling instead of doing permanent, or what made you choose? Okay, because are you like in your own lane with just offering permanent only, or there's other?
No, I
um
think I'm in my own lane because I think that
I love it.
anybody else that's a permanent placement recruiter, I think they do other modalities in addition to histology.
Hmm.
And anybody that just does histology, and I don't know personally of anybody else that just does histology, but if they do, they're doing travel and perm, I believe.
Right, I know. That's how I was like. I think you're in your own lane with that, because the fact that you was only doing permanent placement, I was like, I wonder why. Like, because I normally it's both.
Hmm.
So, okay. So I would like to ask you, if someone wanted to start their own company like you did, what are three things that you recommend to start in your own permanent recruiting company?
Wait till I
Or
retire.
and then you can tell us. So I'll have you back on the show.
Yeah, just wait till I retire and then I'll tell you how to do it.
Look, then you give us the secret.
Does Coke give their recipe? No,
They
if
do
you
not.
really do have a heartfelt interest in becoming a recruiter, contact your recruiter. Not me, because I'm a one-person show and my husband and I work together and it's great just the way it
Okay,
is.
so I understand. I mean, I'm a one woman show too, so I understand that. I'm not going to give away the secret. I got it. I
Right.
got it. I get it. Okay, so I'll wait till you retire and then we can talk. um, Let me see. Okay, so another thing I wanted to ask you, if I was to use you to get a permanent job at a lab,
Mhm.
and just say I worked there for 2 years and I decided to leave, and didn't work out, can someone use your services again? Or it depends on how they leave the company, or it's just like, or we can use your services as many times as we want.
So, like, if I put, like, for example, if I place you in company A, 2
Mm-hmm.
years on the road, you're like, I'm ready for my next move. Can I personally work with you on company B?
Again. Mhm.
Mhm. It's kind of dicey,
Okay.
but in all honesty, my contract tells the clients 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay. That being said, you know, you're a free individual. You can do whatever you want. If you contact me, I'm going to talk to you.
Okay.
And if you're currently working at a client, um, I'm probably going to counsel you first
Oh, okay.
and help you try to see if you want to stay. But
Okay.
if you're leaving and you want out, I'm probably going to help you.
Okay. So it won't be like, it's no
I'm
like
not just going
bad
to leave you
blood.
stranded.
Yeah, it's no bad blood.
No,
Okay.
no, not at all. And in fact, I have several people that I have kind of helped them on their career ladder as they've,
Mhm.
this job, and then, I place them in job A, and then there's job B that is even more suited to their skills 5 years down the road. I'm going to go back to them and go, hey, listen, I have another great opportunity for you. So, yeah, to me, this is a long term relationship.
Awesome. And that's good to hear. Okay. So as far as like what piece of advice would you give my audience if they are looking for their first histology job after passing the ASCP? And I haven't worked in Florida in a very long time, so when I was there, I felt like the job market was a little oversaturated. I felt like we were all like just competing for the same jobs, and maybe things have changed. But when you have like so many graduating classes that are coming out, and we're all competing for the same jobs, that can get a little discouraging. So, what would you offer a new histotech or someone who's trying to get their first job? What type of advice would you offer them as far as, you know landing their first job? And what advice would you give them?
I would say, first of all, network. So if you know anybody that works in any type of a healthcare facility, or any type of a lab that might use histotechs, talk to them and tell them, hey, listen, I just got certified and I'm looking for a job, because there is such a critical shortage of histotechs everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's very likely that if you know somebody who's working in healthcare elsewhere, they're probably going to be incentivized with a referral bonus if they refer somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So then they're helping you and you're helping them. That's the first thing I would do. If you went to school, I would go to the job placement center at the school.
Okay.
Talk to, they have career service advisors, and they will help you find a job.
Okay.
If you're an extern, if you're on an externship site, ask your the supervisor that you're doing your externship for, and if they don't have an opening, take it a step further and say, hey, do you know anybody in any other lab that I might could talk to?
Right.
Because I guarantee you, everybody's hurting. Everybody's
Right.
hurting. And if you're somebody who's just starting out and you live in an area where there's not a lot of histology work, you probably already know you got to move.
Right.
I would say move either A, that might be a good place to start traveling, because then you can get 13-week assignments and see other areas that there's more histology work, or get into the groove of going out for 13 weeks and coming home because you can't, move type thing.
Right.
I find that that's my longest experience. Seems like with travelers is that's the greatest motivation for most travelers, is that they don't want to move and there's nothing in their area.
Right. I
Now,
know.
and that's years and years and years. More recently, what I'm finding with travel, for example, is that people are deciding to travel for a specific period of time because they want to save for a house, they want to
Right.
pay off their student loan, they have a wedding that they're saving up for, a great trip, whatever. So
Right.
that's a great thing for an experienced tech, but it's also a great environment for a junior tech, because you'll also have the opportunity to work with experienced techs,
Yeah.
and it's only 13 weeks away from home.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. like I was explaining to you earlier, that's like a great benefit of traveling because you can save up or whatever that you want to travel for. And like you said, it's 13 weeks away from home. I get a lot of questions of, can I bring my dog? Can I bring my spouse? You can bring anyone you like whenever you are traveling on an assignment. You can bring your pet. You can bring anything. They can
Right.
provide you housing. Um, or you can find your own housing and save more money that way. So there's a lot of great benefits of traveling. So which is, those are some great key points as far as like traveling versus, like you said, saving up whatever you need to do, and then you can just come back home and you can
Right.
work, take a break, and then you can travel again, or you can go permanent. So that's actually a good idea. Now, if you have any, do you ever get calls or get contacted about traveling and you just refer them to a travel company, or how does that, or do you try to, point them in the right direction, or do you offer, or do you have actually talk to maybe some of the employers that you have connections with and say, I have a traveler, if you were interested, or it's just like, no, it's just only permanent.
What I would love to be able to do, and what I have been trying to do since I started my company,
Mm-hmm.
is to find somebody who just does travel
Okay.
that I could partner with. And I would just refer the people to them. But
Yeah.
here's the thing. Everybody does travel in perm. So I don't want to refer somebody that they're going to also use for perm,
For perm. That makes
you
sense.
know? So that's why I haven't done that yet. Normally, what I do when somebody asks me for travel, a lot of times people want help on their resume, like to either transition into or out of travel,
Oh,
right?
wow. Okay.
Yeah. And when anybody has any questions about travel, I refer them to Facebook because there's two travel histology groups on there. There's
Oh,
Histology Travelers Unite and Travel Histotechnology. And that's all, like, obviously, it's all travel histotech. So
right.
they're really not so much willing to answer my questions per se, but
Right.
they're very good to you guys. They're very good
Okay.
to the techs.
They're not going to answer your question because you're the competition. I get it. I get it.
And I don't really see it that way because
I know.
I don't think
No,
travel
not
and
in a bad,
home
not
meet.
competition like, yeah, not competition like in a bad way. But I mean, that's just like one gas station, just because there's a gas station on the corner, you can still build your gas station on the next corner because
Right,
someone's going to go to both.
right, right.
Right. Someone's going to go to both. So, you guys, if you guys are just not entering the chat, thank you so much. We have Pam, our histology recruiter, here from Relia Solutions. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's
Relia
right. Well,
Solutions.
I was just looking at the questions in the
And
chat.
we're about to get to the questions now. And so you guys go ahead and put your questions down in the chat for Pam, and we're going to go ahead and get those answered. And if you guys are watching on the replay later, make sure to thumbs up. And also, if you have any other questions, and also I will be putting Pam's info again across the screen so you guys can be able to contact her if you guys are looking for any type of permanent placement. And let's go ahead and take some questions here. And Pam, if you have any questions for like me, is that's great. You can ask me. Um, all right. So we have a question from Temple. He says, "My name is Temple, a certified HTL, currently in the UK for postgraduate degree in public health. I want to learn more about applying for jobs in the USA and supports I can get."
Unfortunately, that is the one thing I know nothing about, international recruitment. And quite honestly, the reason I don't know anything about it is because the employers that I work with do not sponsor, at least not now. I
Okay.
am advocating for that because I feel like there's a huge talent pool out there like you, Temple, who could really contribute to our profession here in the United States. But it's just, it's not my wheelhouse.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know any international uh travelers either. And maybe, probably, I don't know, maybe you can contact a travel company, and maybe ask them, or maybe Google to see exactly. I really wouldn't know
The
either.
biggest thing is going to be you'll have to get uh, your certification
Oh, probably here.
and your education um, accepted. I can't remember what the exact word is, but accept you have submitted to the ASCP, and there
Mm-hmm.
is, and then they will tell you what your equivalency is. Okay, so that's the first part. Then the second part is all about immigration, and that's like
Oh,
each person's situation is different, and it requires an attorney or an immigration specialist to really speak knowledgeably on the subject, and I am neither one.
yeah, that makes sense. Oh, I didn't even think about immigration.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
biggest thing.
he said also about research job opportunities for histotechs.
I think you're going to find that most of the research opportunities, at least here in the United States, if you want to get into research, you probably want to have a bachelor's degree. Now, I know that they will hire people that are, with associate's degrees and CLIA qualified to gross and all that. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
getting into research because you want to get your hands into it and lead a research project or get really involved in high level studies and things, that's the person that's going to probably, the bachelor's degree is going to make you most competitive.
Oh, especially for grossing. Do you? I know you said that you work with all lab professionals. So you supply jobs for histotechs. Do you do lab techs and grossers and pathologists as well?
Nope, nope. Just within the histology lab, I work with grossing
Mm-hmm.
histotechs, supervisors, coordinators, managers, everybody in the histology lab.
Okay.
If I had more time, if there was more than 24 hours in a day, I would
Uh-huh.
also do PAs, med techs, cytotechs. Used to do cytotechs, then the demand went away.
Right.
Um, and so I never got back into it. I've just been so busy with histology.
With histology. Yeah, histology is definitely a growing field. Even during the pandemic, just to go off track a little bit, I made a video during the pandemic when we saw more surgical surgeries being canceled, and everyone
Hmm.
was thinking, oh my god, like I'm going to lose my job. And I made a video called are histology jobs in danger? But during that time, we literally all pretty much all lab professionals, even though they had stopped the surgeries, we literally we worked through the whole pandemic, and I'm so
Hmm.
fortunate. And I think it showed where we were still needed, and there were more jobs. It was just people were probably scared to travel or go somewhere, but the demand didn't drop. There were still jobs, and there were still people still needing histologists. So I think
Hmm.
this is a very not only great paying field, but it's something that changed my life, and it was something where it's a lot of hands-on training too, because like you said, when you're in school or when you have the hands-on at the lab, and then you go to your clinicals, and then everything that you're doing in the lab and then transfer to your clinicals and transfers to the real world. um,
Hmm.
you still get that on the job training, and you're learning as you go every day, so there's always going to be a job. Daisy says, can you speak on how long a histotech can stay at one location? I was told my tax home would be jeopardized if I stay at one travel location longer than a year. Is this true?
Okay. Well, first of all, let me say this. Is you see my email address running on the
Let me put that
Chiron
down.
there?
Let me put it
Yeah.
back.
Yeah,
Boom.
there I am. See me right
There you
there?
go.
Okay. um, I send out a regular histology careers bulletin. Yeah, it lists all my jobs. But I know that you guys are taking time out of your day to read my email. So I always make sure that there's something else that might interest you, whether it's a job tip or something fun to talk about around the water cooler or whatever. Um, and I'm in the process. This has been 6 months in the making, at least, probably longer. An investigative report about travel. And it's not like blowing everybody up or anything like that. Just what people always ask me. And
Right.
so I needed to find this stuff out so that I could share it to them. That being said, the first advice I would give any traveler anytime is get a CPA.
Oh,
Get every get a CPA
I have
or
one.
tax service, right? So that you can have these questions answered. Like, how long can I stay at this one, the location with the tax home being jeopardized and all that. I don't know personally. The only experience I can draw from is like 20 years ago when I was doing IT recruiting and we were under the government regulations. And one of the things back then was you could only stay 12 months, like you said, at a location and still get the living expenses.
Yeah.
I thought it was extended to 18 months, but I don't know,
Right.
like because of the pandemic.
Right.
The other issue that I think is even more concerning is something called wage recharacterization. That is the term that the IRS uses. Okay.
Oh.
When I was working IT travel, the prevailing fair wage for an IT professional across the country was $27.65 an hour. What that meant was we couldn't pay them less than that as taxable income. Okay. What I've seen in my research now is I'm seeing some of these healthcare companies giving the wage of $15 an hour because that's federal minimum wage, and then giving the tax everything else in taxes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
tax free and expenses. And where that becomes a problem is the IRS says that legally you need to pay the taxable wage that is the prevailing wage of the area. Okay.
Oh.
If you don't get caught, right? But if you do get caught, they're going to come at they're going to come to you for the back taxes. Okay. So that's why I just say be aware of that. Okay. Number one.
Right.
And in the course of doing that research, I thought, well, how do people get tagged? How are you going to get caught? Well, I don't think I need to
The
remind
IRS
anybody.
does an audit.
And how many more IRS agents are we getting? Now, when I first heard about that, the 87,000, I'm like, wow. Okay. And from the recruiter's perspective, I'm like, how are they going to find 87,000 people who they could
They'll find
actually
you.
work and qualify? And, that's a lot of people.
Right.
But then when I went and saw my accountant at tax time, I had a conversation with her about it. And she told me that the first 30,000 are probably just customer service, which is fantastic. Because that means if you guys do have any questions about how this should be done, you should be able to call them up now where you might not have been able to before. But that's why I say get with an accountant, because an accountant will be able to look at your whole big picture to
Right.
make sure that you're in the level of compliance that you're comfortable with.
Right.
Now the next question is, what's the likelihood of getting caught, right? So
It
here's the other
depends.
thing that I found about that. You probably won't get caught unless you get audited.
Mm-hmm.
One way you might get audited is if you've got like a $200,000 home that's your permanent residence that you're paying a mortgage on. How are you doing that on $15 an hour?
Right.
Okay. And the other one is, literally, when I was doing this research, I found out that right now, today, 15 healthcare staffing companies are currently being audited by the IRS.
Wow.
And one of the specific issues for each and every one of them is the wage recharacterization. And if they're caught doing that, not only will they be fined, but again, the techs that are claiming less than what they actually should be claiming for their pay rate will have to pay back taxes and penalties.
So, okay, because I have a CPA because I needed one. One, because whenever I was a traveler, my um, my stay home or my tax home was still Florida. So I was getting a base amount, of course, and like or not my refund, but my W-2 is basically making like I think it was like maybe 32,000. I can't remember the amount, but I knew um, I was I didn't know how the taxes was going to work either, because I'm claiming a state tax home, and then I was living in another state, so I had to get a CPA as well. Now, as far as, and if I was to be very transparent, the staffing company, they're not going to tell you, they're not going to give you a lot of information on probably like how to stay out of trouble. They're going to, you have to figure it out yourself, because
Mhm.
I'm pray I did everything, correctly whenever I did, well, I have a CPA, so she would have told me, but I'm just thinking to myself, like, if I wouldn't have gotten one, because when I went to try to file my taxes myself, I didn't have no clue on how to do that W-2. So you're right, Pam. She definitely probably does need to get a CPA, because it can end up biting you later.
Right, right. And now, just as a little aside here, I also want to say that in the research that I did on this, I found that most of the companies that are either publicly traded, most of the companies, let me just say this, most of the companies that are publicly traded are in compliance.
Okay.
So, because they have shareholders and other people that they have to answer to. So, if you're working for one of the big ones, you're
Right.
probably okay.
I'm okay.
If you're working for one of the big ones that's publicly traded, you're probably okay. They have risk assessment specialists and compensation analysis people that make sure that everything's okay. But even still, I would say cross your T's, dot your I's, and have somebody go over it with their eye, a professional go over it with their eyes for you.
Okay. That's great advice. Um, but just
Sure, Daisy.
to tell you, Daisy, though, I kept claiming my travel home is Florida, until I became permanent. But you do end up making more than what they're saying, maybe, but because the money is tax free. So I'm confused too. So I would definitely get a CPA, like Pam says. Um, okay, so she says, oh,
Do you
let's go.
understand? Do you understand what I'm saying about, like, for an example, with wage recharacterization? The histotech next to you on the bench is making $30 an hour, right?
Right.
And your travel company is paying you $2,000 a week, but they're only taking taxes out for $15 an hour.
I get it.
So they're not taxing what is really your full fair wage for that
Right.
area.
Gotcha. See, I didn't
But
even,
again,
I
like I
didn't
said,
know
the bigger companies that are more visible and are publicly traded,
that. Right.
they are the ones that are most likely to do that.
Okay. Let me see here. Let me go back to, okay. So Temple says, I've got a USA evaluation equivalent with Wes. Thanks for taking the time to respond to my questions. You're welcome, Temple. You know
Sure.
what? You know what that?
Absolutely. You're welcome.
You know what Wes is? USA evaluation equivalent with Wes.
I don't. I think it might be an agency, a certifying agency.
Okay.
Yeah. What Temple, is that a certifying agency?
Yeah. Let us know, Temple's at a certified agency. Okay. Daisy says, do I need additional credential to go from regular licensed histotech to a grossing tech?
If you're going into a CLIA accredited lab, yes. You'll need to have at least 16 hours of science courses. It's a combination of biology, anatomy, and chemistry. And if you go, you can also do it as part of an associate's degree. But if you go to the CLIA regs, it'll tell you exactly what you need to do. But that's what it would be.
Okay.
If you're an HTL or you have a bachelor's degree in biology, chances are you already have this. Most of the schools, since CLIA instituted that grossing requirement, have incorporated it into their program so that when their students graduate, they have all the credentials they need to be CLIA qualified to gross. I know Kaiser does. I know IUPUI does.
Okay. And let me see. Okay, Daisy says, "Wow, that's interesting. Thanks for this info. Definitely will get a CPA." Yeah, you, because it gets kind of tricky whenever you're trying to do your W-2, especially if you're a traveler. I have another question that was sent to me, Pam,
Mhm.
through YouTube a couple of days ago. This is for Ren Wright. They said, I've been a tech for 12 years now and need a break and would love to get into recruiting. could you touch more on how you got started with that? But we went over that earlier, but I didn't read the question. So
Let me say this. Your histology knowledge is so valuable, especially now. You've been doing it for 12 years. Maybe you're bored at being on the bench, and I get that.
right,
But um don't stop contributing to the profession. If you don't want to be on the bench anymore, teach, mentor, sell, field support. There's so many other things you can do. But if you want to become a recruiter, fine. But I'm just
right.
saying, don't wait, don't squander. You have a lot to share. Don't squander your histology knowledge. You have a lot to share, and there's a lot of people that want to hear it and
That's
learn from
actually
you.
great advice. Yeah, 12 years. I work with a lot of histotechs who've been doing this for 12 years, 20 years, who's retiring. And they still, even after they're retired, they come in like a few days a week. So I think you're right. You have so much info and so much to offer, so much to teach. And there's so many different avenues, and just because I think as far as like newer histotechs, we need that guidance.
Right.
We look for that because working in a big lab, sometimes you are surrounded by a lot of text, and maybe you're sitting there scared to ask a question, or you don't want to you know mess up, or you're in your head a lot. So it's good to have like more of those senior techs to be able to show you, or make you feel more comfortable, or just to have that guidance. Because I know when I was new, I literally, to the day, I asked my lead, and I think he's been there ever since he was like 20. He's like 50 something. So I ask him the same math question every time I'm doing titering, or so I ask him the same math question every single time. I'm like, yeah, I know this is basic math, but I need some help. I mean, and it's like, it's like, I know you probably think Shanika, you should have it by now, but it's okay to ask questions. It's
Yeah,
okay
better
to,
safe than sorry. They would
better
rather
safe than
have you
sorry.
ask than have to remake the solution, that's for sure.
Right. You guys, we're getting a little bit, it looks like we're going over an hour for the lab, and we want to make sure that we get all of our questions in, and we don't want to hold Pam up for too long. So if you guys got any more questions, go ahead and submit them now. And that way we can get them in before we let her go. But Pam, I wanted to say, just like how much of an inspiration you are in the histology community. Before today, like, or whenever I reached out to you, just, I guess I'm not really involved as I should be, probably because real world, I'm like super busy with trying to provide content and do my real job, and just have
Yeah, sure.
there's so much stuff going on. So it's like I sometimes I have to disconnect so I can be sane. But I just want to say thank you so much for just providing your knowledge and your expertise on your field, and just how much you know about histology. As far as going to the ASCP, I went to a Mohs conference in Chicago a few years back, and I went to I didn't get to go to CSH this weekend, and even when I lived in Florida, I never went to FSH or NSH, especially with COVID happening. But why should histotechs make sure, like, if they can, to try to attend these seminars and workshops? Like, what's the benefit of that?
Okay. Two things. The obvious one is you can get your CEUs, and I know you can get your CEUs online too, and it's a
Right.
lot easier and everything. But at the risk of offending, and I don't mean to,
Mm-hmm.
different people approach histology different ways.
Right.
Okay. Some people just want to crank out their cutting and embedding
Mm-hmm.
and go home. And there's nothing wrong with that. God knows we need them, right?
Right.
But if you're somebody who wants to be somebody, meaning if you want to do what Shan does, if you want to do, um, you know, teach, mentor, get into management, learn new skills, the connections and networking that you will get at either a state or the national meeting are invaluable. And that's connections with the techs that you meet. That's
Mm-hmm.
connections with the people who are running the workshops. That's hooking up and talking to the vendors,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody knows everybody and everybody wants to help everybody. And if you're not there, you're going to miss it.
Right. I agree. It's all about networking, and I hope you guys really enjoyed this live today, because it's not every day that we can actually talk with the recruiter and get the behind the scenes. Normally, whenever you're talking to recruiters, more like that one-on-one when you're trying to get a job. So the fact that we was able to provide this valuable information, just really, really, make sure that you guys taking notes, because Pam has really provided us with a lot of great information and behind the scenes stuff that we can't get anywhere else. So we really appreciate you, Pam, and everything that you do for the histology community. And I think you've pulled me a little bit out of my shell
Good, 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 good. So
to
that means
probably.
you need to get on Facebook and
Oh
join
God.
my group,
Oh, I'll go in
facebook.com
there to join
slash
your group.
groups. It's facebook.com slash groups slash histotechnologists. It's histology, HTL, or ASCP.
Okay.
ASCP. We have a lot of fun in that group.
Okay.
Anybody can write what they want. You don't have them there. I don't have any keywords set up or anything like
Okay.
that. The only thing I don't allow is for people to post jobs in there. And it's not because I don't want the competition. It's
Hmm.
because if it's not my client, I don't know what's going on there. So I can't allow somebody to put somebody, I can't take the
See,
risk that it's
and,
not a
and
good.
see, that's what I thought, and that's what I thought. The Facebook groups was about, like people posting jobs, because I've never seen it personally, but I just felt like people were in the community on Facebook or just posting jobs. So I was like, I'm not looking for a job, so I'm never on there. But I think maybe I will set up a Facebook so I could join your group. I've never had Facebook ever. It's like ever,
Wow.
never.
And
Because
then
social media, I
the
got too much social media.
NSH, the
Huh?
NSH also has a very robust group, and there's a lot of conversation as far as scientific stuff going on in there as well. Have you ever been on the HistoNet?
No.
Okay, HistoNet is a board that is managed by University of Texas Southwestern. It's
Okay.
got over 10,000 members worldwide, so it's
Okay.
international, and basically it's troubleshooting. It's
Oh.
troubleshooting and advice.
Okay, so what I'll do is, whenever I'm only on just YouTube. I don't even have a LinkedIn. I know it's probably crazy, but I maybe probably need to get myself out there more, and so that way we can grow our community and grow the Lab Girl Circle. And I just really appreciate you reaching out to us. Where can we find you? I put everything down here in
Yeah.
the bar, but let everyone know where they can find you if they would like to join your Facebook, your LinkedIn, or what are some great resources where we can find you
Right.
and where to reach out
My
to.
email address, my cell phone number. I have a page on Facebook, Relia Solutions for Histology Professionals, also on
Hmm.
LinkedIn. My handle on Instagram is Pam at Relia. And love to see you guys. Even if you have any questions, if you have a simple question, a
Hmm.
complicated question, help with transitioning from perm to travel or from travel back into perm, resume tune-ups, anything, or even you just want to say hi, I'm here.
Thank you, Pam. I really appreciate you guys. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you got any questions you want me to, relay to Pam, or if you want to contact her. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining the stream. I really appreciate you guys' support. Make sure to thumbs up the live so YouTube knows you guys enjoy this information. Share this live, because if this was great for you, we know it'll be great for other histologists and other lab professionals. And Pam, I really appreciate you joining me. Hopefully, I can have you back in the future.
I'd be
And
happy to.
yeah, it's been great talking with you. And yeah, I really look forward to speaking with you. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
You too. You too. Take care,
All
everybody.
right. Bye,
Bye
guys.
bye.